What is going on, YouTube universe? This is Arghgodzirra. We are looking ahead to more AFL action. Round 5 is where it's at. But before we get started, on the screen, once again, URL, competition code. You can find those in the description of this video. If you want to join my tipping competition, that's where it's at. Make sure you get on board because I will be closing eligibility soon for prizes to be won. So if you want to be eligible, you got to do one of two things right now. You got to make sure you're in this competition, and if you're in this competition, you got to make sure you subscribe to the channel. Now, that's out of the way. We can get down to business. We can have a look at the tips that were round 4, and I tipped 5 out of 9. There were some teams that let me down, but we kicked it off strong on Thursday night with Melbourne at one point looking like they were going to have a huge win. Port Adelaide, in the first time in the club's history, being goalless at half-time. They couldn't catch a break. They had Mitch Georgiades run in from, I don't know, 70-odd metres out. Looked like could have kicked one of the goals of the year. Ends up getting smothered, and then his teammate has the ball touched, and they just couldn't buy a goal, Port Adelaide. But Melbourne got the win, 28 points in the end. Friday night, we went with Brisbane, Geelong getting the upper hand. Everyone has been talking this week about Harris Andrews getting pushed in the back and Tom Hawkins kicking that goal that swung some momentum. It was a free kick in my opinion, but I'm not an AFL umpire, so unfortunately Brisbane go down and the streak at Cardinia Park continues. I think it's something like 15 games they haven't won in a row at Geelong. If I knew that, I would have tipped fucking Geelong. Then, we had our string of games on Saturday, kicking off with Sydney versus North Melbourne in a very close contest. I said that I thought Sydney would have got up by at least 6 goals. They got up by 11 points, North Melbourne putting up a hell of a fight. And even though North Melbourne is sitting 17th on the ladder with only the 1 win, they've been rather competitive outside of that 100-point smacking they copped to Brisbane. So I think North Melbourne fans, although the outcomes haven't gone their way, minus that 1 game, should be happy with the endeavour the boys are showing. Collingwood fell to West Coast in what has been one of the most memeable losses of the season because of the circumstances surrounding all of the injuries with West Coast and all the additional players that they've had to bring in externally from the club to help them get a team on the field. Bastards. Still some very contentious calls. Willie Rioli diving into the point post and getting a free kick for a push. I don't know how the fuck that happened, but hey, congratulations to West Coast and West Coast supporters for picking up their first win of the season. My doggies. My doggies. I was going to tip the Dogs over Richmond. That's why I said my doggies. But my boys, the Tigers, getting up over the Bulldogs. I am very happy. But at the moment, it looks like Richmond are only good for every second game. And we could probably lose this week. I don't know. But 4-quarter performance, finally seen from Richmond. And I am very excited because after seeing 4 quarters of good football, I think Richmond have shown that they can kick it with the best. Can they keep it up though? Well, the verdict is out. We got to see how they go this week. I tipped GWS against Fremantle. Bad mistake. Fremantle getting up in a big way. Some of their young kids really standing up tall in that win. Then at Marvel Stadium, Essendon over Adelaide in a very close game. I personally feel that Lockie Gallant from Adelaide was pushed out in the final contest of the game and should have gotten a free kick in front of goal, but Essendon hold on in a very close contest to pick up their first win of the season. St Kilda, some of you in the chat of my previous video turned around and said that Hawthorn would have been a shoo-in, but I didn't watch this game, and for the most part it was a very close game early, but to see St Kilda coming out with such a huge win, wow. And then probably the shock of the round would have been Carlton losing to the Gold Coast, but Patrick Cripps going down with a hamstring injury. We don't know how long Patrick Cripps is going to be out for. That could indefinitely put a bit of a stint in Carlton's near-perfect run to start the season. But there we go, I tipped 5. There were 2 people in the competition, however, that tipped 7. And we're turning our attention to Dusty Fendoff 4, Brendan W, and Madge Ty 77 Con M. Congratulations to the both of you for tipping the most correct tips this week. Now when we go to total tips, Frio 90 Courtney K has taken a 1-tip lead. Has probably been in front for the last few weeks, so very impressive from Courtney. We have 4 sitting on 24, we have 2 on 23, and then we've got a bunch of us sitting on 22. A lot of 21s, a lot of 20s. We have 35 people in the competition. Still under what we had last year. I really hope we can push over what we had last year. We had 60 odd last year. So if you've got any friends that want to jump in and get involved, be sure to share the link around. Let's boost the numbers up. Let's get some people involved. But now that we've reflected on last week, we've had a look at who tipped the most this week. It's time to look at the week that is coming ahead, round 5. And some games here that could really start shaping at least the middle of the competition. Thursday night sees Brisbane taking on Collingwood at the Gabba. Purely because it's at the Gabba, I'm going Brisbane. I'm going Brisbane by 26 points. They've got Oscar McInerney coming back into the ruck. I feel if they had Oscar McInerney last week against Geelong, they would have gotten over the line. Darcy Fort, I'm not discrediting at all. He had a great performance, but he is not a number 1 ruckman. And I think that's where Brisbane unfortunately fell a little bit short, because the likes of Reece Stanley were able to get hands to the ball first. Collingwood looked impressive in part last week, but they're now going to have Jamie Elliott on the sidelines for a little bit, so that's some more firepower out of that forward line. However, you've got Jordan De Goey coming back. Taylor Adams will probably come back in as well. So they are going to get some quality back into the team. Sorry. But I think Brisbane are going to be too strong. Friday night at Marvel, we have the Bulldogs taking on North Melbourne. I am going to back in the Bulldogs. At the moment this season, the Bulldogs have been their worst enemy. I think they said during the Richmond Bulldogs game, from set shots this year, the Bulldogs have kicked 18 goals, 43 behinds. Don't quote me on that, but it was something around that total. And when we were watching the game at home, because I'm a Richmond supporter, my sister's a Bulldogs supporter, so it was a very tense night on Saturday night. But I turned around and said it was probably a race to see whether the Bulldogs would kick 20 behinds before they kicked their next goal. And that was how it was looking for a very long time. They've really got to fix up their accuracy, because on accuracy alone, they should have beaten Richmond. On accuracy alone, they should probably almost be undefeated at this point, because they have been hitting the scoreboard hard, but they have been missing big time. I think, however, they are going to be way too hard for North Melbourne to stop. Friday night, we go to Optus. We have West Coast taking on Sydney. I am going to back Sydney here. And that's a big call, especially going over to Optus Stadium and only just beating North Melbourne at home. It was at home, wasn't it? It was at the SCG, and only beating North Melbourne by 11 points. West Coast, if they get in Tim Kelly, Luke Shuey, Andrew Gaff, those type of players, if those players come back in once teams are announced, I might change my tip. At the moment, I'm going to back in Sydney, and that's without Lance Franklin, because he could be out indefinitely with what looks like a broken finger. So, yeah, we're going to go the Bloods. I'm going to lock in Sydney. Marvel Stadium, St Kilda, Gold Coast. Got to lock in St Kilda based off what we saw against Hawthorn. Although Gold Coast were impressive against Carlton, as I said, you lose arguably Carlton's best player for the first 3-4 rounds of the year, and Carlton took Gold Coast took advantage of that fact. St Kilda, their final quarter against Richmond was unbelievable. They ran away with the game against Hawthorn. They're really riding that momentum wave. I think St Kilda are going to get it done quite comfortably. Then we go to Adelaide Oval with Adelaide hosting Richmond. I'm going to back Richmond. I think we're back on top of our game. We are where we need to be. Rumour has it, Kane Lambert is coming back early from a hip injury, and we're going to get Nick Vlosten back in our backline. I think people underestimate how crucial some of these players are to Richmond's lineup. Dion Prestia comes back in last week, and we get on top of the clearance game. We have Jack Riewoldt come back in to the forward line, which allows Tom Lynch to kind of go off on his own, and he kicks 4 goals. So having Nick Vlosten come back in will help our intercept game defensively. Having Kane Lambert back in adds a little bit more punch to our midfield, and we can do some things up forward as well. Adelaide, however, did look very impressive against Essendon, especially some of the youth that they've got in their team. Rochelle looks the goods. Hinge in the back line, although he did an injury, looks very good as well. But I am going to back my boys in. And the final game of Saturday is Melbourne versus GWS, and I think Melbourne continue their undefeated streak. I don't see how GWS get it done, especially with Braden Preuss getting suspended. That would have been a great battle. I would have loved to have seen Max Gawn and Braden Preuss go head-to-head, 2 big bodies. But I think Melbourne are going to be way too good for GWS. Sunday, Carlton taking on Port Adelaide at the MCG. I am going to back Carlton. This is knowing that Patrick Cripps is going to be out. However, I am hearing whispers that the hamstring might not be as bad as first thought, and he could still be a chance to play. I don't know if there's truth in that fact, but you've got to go off what we've seen this year out of both teams. Carlton have been vastly more impressive, and I'm going to back in their system over Port Adelaide's system any day of the week. Marvel Stadium, Essendon taking on Fremantle. Fremantle at Marvel. Probably a big call. I feel watching both games last weekend, watching both teams collectively, Fremantle have played the better brand. I think Fremantle's rebound is better than Essendon's. Some of the youth at Fremantle have been standing taller than some of the more experienced players that Essendon have. And I think players like Sean Darcy in the ruck are going to get the better of someone like an Andrew Phillips from Essendon. So it's going to be one in the midfield, and I think Fremantle will have the edge. And then we have Hawthorn taking on Geelong at the MCG to round out the weekend. Geelong should get that done quite comfortably. A lot of people were saying Hawthorn looked good early, but when we have a look at the ladder, Hawthorn have defeated, I think they said it was North Melbourne and Port Adelaide, so they've defeated the bottom 2 teams. Is that correct? So Hawthorn looked good early, but in the grand scheme of things, they have only defeated the teams on the bottom of the ladder. So they need to scalp big wins like this if they want to, prove that they're serious this year. However, I think Geelong, on the back of a hard-fought contest against Brisbane, are going to be too good. So recapping, we've got Brisbane, Bulldogs, Sydney, St Kilda, Richmond, Melbourne, Carlton, Fremantle, and Geelong. This week is the week where the gauntlet starts as well, so we might as well lock in who we think is going to be the guarantee this week. I am going to go the Bulldogs over North Melbourne. If you've never done the gauntlet on tipping before, you pick one team that you think is going to be guaranteed to win. However, if you select a team to win, you cannot select them for the rest of the gauntlet. So me locking in the Bulldogs here means I cannot pick the Bulldogs again while I am still active in the gauntlet. So having a look, for example, to next week, Bulldogs taking on Adelaide, you can see here selected in round 5. I cannot select the Bulldogs. If I was then to turn around and say Geelong are going to beat North Melbourne, moving forward, it would lock out both. Yeah, and I will do it now just to show you guys. It will say Geelong was selected in round 6, Bulldogs was selected in round 5. So it's just a little bit of fun, a little bit of an extra side game for us to play. But that's it for my tips this week, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully, I can start improving on just the 5 that I seem to be getting each and every week. Hopefully this week, we can get a big score. We can challenge the top of the board. Please leave a like on the video if you can. It'd mean a lot to me if you did. If you're new to the channel, as I said, you can follow these links that are in the description of the video. If you want to join the tipping competition, make sure you're subscribed as well. It's as simple as hitting that red button down below. But that's it from me, guys. I'm out of here. Good luck to your teams this weekend. And as always, I will catch you guys next time.